Hello, my friends, and welcome to this reading, What Love Needs From You, which takes a look at what our struggle is with love and what love is asking that we do about it in order to succeed. Whenever you're ready, the timestamps are down below. Hello, Pile 1. Now, I was not able to record the shuffling process of your reading, and it's because I just was too excited. I got excited and I wanted to jump straight into the reading, and I digress. There's a reason I'm telling you that. But this first part of the message is answering the question of what your struggle with love is, what stands in your way of love. And the second half right here with the Tarot and the Lenormand will answer the question of what love needs from you. And so the message itself is that you tend to jump the gun, and that you tend to be on different pages with the people that you engage with romantically, in the sense that you tend to take the energy, you crank it all the way up, while people, especially the people that you've interacted with, have needed like something slower. And so kind of like me with jumping the gun right now, where I just wanted to get right into the reading, and I was so excited that I didn't even realize I hadn't hit record. And it was as soon as I had laid the cards out that I realized it didn't hit record. So I hadn't even started on the reading. I wasn't talking to myself or anything, but I don't know, I found it kind of funny that it happened that way, where I noticed immediately after I had laid the cards down, I wasn't even into the reading. And so that feels like it was part of the reading itself, where it concreted for me how, like the Knight of Wands here, well, let's just get into it. So the Knight of Wands next to the Queen of Pentacles, we have the Knight, which is all about action, of Wands, quick moving, so quick action. This is you. And the people that you engage with have been Queen of Pentacles. Queen is a master of energy, and Pentacles represents earth, and so slow moving, not at all like Wands, fire energy. And so that's what I mean, where for you, you're ready to go. You're ready to move quickly. Let's go. Let's take this to where pretty much you want to take it. Where who you're engaging with is in Queen of Pentacles energy, where it's like they're going to move slow. They're going to take their time in this process of getting to know someone. Here at the center, we have the Three of Cups, which is generally the card of friendship. And so people have wanted to approach you with friendship, but the energy that you come with is Wands energy, which is 5. So immediately an increase from 3 to 5. People are asking you for an energy level of 3, and you're over here cranking it to 5 and then 9. But what's interesting is that the two cards that we have here for Wands, the 5 is one of conflict, it can be abrasiveness. And it's not that you are abrasive. It's not that you are causing conflicts. And I mean, you might have. Maybe there have been instances where you move a little too fast and it has caused an issue. Maybe it's been where you've brought this energy into a friendship, and then that friendship turned kind of sour because of what you were bringing into it. You were asking too much of the friendship. And whatever the case is, this 5 of Wands energy, this increase of energy, and it's increased because it's from 3 to 5, but also this idea of water, which is cool. It flows, it's nice, and Wands, it's heated. It's really only appropriate for certain types of environments. And so you're bringing this heat, you're cranking up the heat, is kind of what I see these two Wands cards here next to the Three of Cups. Is you cranking up the heat, and the energy then being kind of spoiled because you brought in this energy that the other party wasn't prepared for, or didn't really want, or hadn't even really considered until you brought it in. And so then you're left here at the Nine of Wands, and this dude's, I mean, look, he's alone, he's lonely, and he's kind of like the Knight of Wands after he's gone off to make his battles, where here he's wounded and he's kind of paranoid, not paranoid, but he's aware of his surroundings because of the things that he's seen. And so maybe because of the rejections that you faced because of this has left you feeling a little jaded, if not just angry or disappointed, which is fair. That's totally fair. Rejection, that's a fair response to rejection. The storyteller is where I got that idea of, it supported that idea of, because a storyteller is someone who interprets something poetically. So, when you want to tell a story really, really good, you're going to add to it. Like, for example, I went to the store today and I dropped my bag of groceries. That didn't happen, but that's just a story. You see how easy it was for me to come up with a story, just a lie. So that's kind of what I'm saying. But like, to continue with what I was trying to say, if I wanted to like be all dramatic and entertain someone with that story, I'd be like, okay, so I was walking out of the store and I was just feeling really distracted this morning, and so I didn't really pay attention when the person who was coming across from me was standing right in front of me, and I just bumped right into them and everything went flying. And it might have not been that dramatic, like it might have just been like a quick bump, and but this is what I'm saying. The storyteller tends to exaggerate or make expansions where none exist. I don't know if that makes sense. Like, kind of just let's just leave it at exaggerates. And so that, again, that idea of the energy's the Three of Cups, but then you exaggerate it to where you might where you might have brought this into a friendship, where the truth is friendship, but the story you're telling is one of romance, and that's what spoiled the energy. We have Violet with faithfulness and modesty, and the quote reads, "Modesty is a shining light that prepares the mind to receive knowledge and the heart for truth." Okay, this is going to come across a little mean, but it's necessary for you to hear it. There is a lack of modesty when one makes the assumption that what you want is what someone else wants. And so this lack of modesty that you have is why you weren't able to see the truth here, why you saw what you wanted to see and not what was actually happening. And so modesty can be another word for humility. And so there might need to be like an ego check where you might need to really take a look at who it is that you're coming across as, and being honest with yourself about what it is that you felt or you saw or whatever it was that made you think like, okay, we're going to take it here. And was there actually any evidence that the other person wanted that? Was there actually a reason for you to feel that beyond just, oh, well, I wanted to, or maybe that's just who you are? And with Rainbows and Iris here on the other side, Rainbows and Messages, the quote reads, "When it rains, look for rainbows. When it's dark, look for stars." What this tells me, and that's kind of, because the quote in itself is one of seeking joy where there is sadness or misery or darkness. And that's that idea of darkness, of there being there's a reason that you need to look for the silver lining. That's where that idea of rejection and disappointment comes from, especially since it's over here on the side of the Nine of Wands. And so the message here, your struggle with love, is that you, as good intentioned as it might be, because they're all upwards, none of these are reversed. So it might genuinely be that you are simply, like, you do genuinely want connection, and you are trying your best to be a good partner. And all of that can be true, but if the person who you're trying to give it to doesn't want it or isn't ready to receive it, then there's no point in you giving it. Now, that being said, and that's heavy. That's a lot. Rejection's already tough, and this message that's coming through of the need for modesty, need for humility, and if it's not about those things, if you can really honestly say, like, I'm not egotistical, or it's not about that. It's just, maybe it's that your heart just goes there. You just naturally, anyone that comes through, like as a friend, you're just naturally the type of person who just kind of, your mind just takes it there. Your feelings kind of take it there. Like, maybe it's just something that you can't help. that this message is coming out here with when it rains, look for rainbows, when it's dark, look for stars. It tells me that, okay, let me be very careful, because I wanted to say it's not your fault that you feel this way. And obviously it's no one's fault how you feel, but if there needs to be some type of accountability for your actions and the way that you have approached certain relationships, then definitely look at yourself honestly. And that's definitely part of your struggle with love. But also that the message is like, it's not a bad thing that your heart is so full or so ready, or that you're just such a romantic. Like, that's not a bad thing. It's just that the way that you handle it, the way that you've used it probably in the past, the way that you've projected that, shared it, maybe that's what's come on a little bit too strong, or hasn't been received well. But that doesn't necessarily mean that you're a bad person, or that, you should be ashamed. It's not about that. It's just, but if there needs to be accountability, please give yourself that. But also give yourself the grace to understand that you wanting love isn't a bad thing. And so that being said, let's jump into this second half of what love needs from you. All right. What does what does love need from pile 1? So with tarot, we have the 10 of Pentacles, the Fool, the 5 of Swords reversed, the Devil, and the 2 of Cups reversed. Lenormand adds Ring, Tree, Child. I'm going to put the Lenormand cards off to the side, just so we can see the tarot while we're interpreting that. And I'll bring him in at the end. The message is clear and it's heavy. So let me interpret for you each of the individual cards so that you see that I'm not just pulling this overall message from my ass. The 10 of Pentacles clearly demonstrates a family unit. So family. The Fool is about fresh starts, starting anew, entirely new. And especially jumping into this fresh start, which is, if this fresh start is a complete departure from the way things have existed in the past. The 5 of Swords upwards is a card of conflict, of the things that we do that cut us off from people. So like we've been talking about in this first half, the things that you do that leave you alone, that leave you lonely. And so reversed, it's a defeating of that energy. It's I want to say quelling of that energy. That's an old word. But is that even correct? Felling? The felling of that energy? Like, whatever. You're getting rid of this energy, this thing, these actions that you do that cost you companionship, that cost you connection. The Devil is any energy in whatever form, physical, spiritual, emotional, whatever the case is, mental, that is such a powerful influence over us that, one, we have a really hard time getting away from it. And two, we may or may not be entirely aware that we're under its influence. So double whammy. And the Two of Cups upwards is one of successful connection, and so reversed, it's failed connections. So the Fool being a departure, one that is a complete departure from the way that things existed before. And this card is supported by family and the energies that we participate in that cost us companionship. Immediately, what this tells me, and again with the Devil, supported by the Devil, is that the way you were raised, the ways in which you were shown love should be given, the ways you've been taught to pursue people, whatever, there's something about how you were raised and what you have normalized, what you see as normal, that you need to depart from. And in the departing of this energy that you've grown up in, whether it was in the family or it's, the influences that you surrounded yourself with, growing up, like the media or your friends, whatever it is, there's something in that's something that stems from this developmental stage, like that developmental stage of like childhood, like how you were raised, that you need to completely depart from in order to successfully depart from this energy that's costing you companionship. And the Devil, again, you might not be fully aware of what it is that I'm talking about, of this pattern of behavior that has existed, that you saw, that you felt was okay for you to emulate, for you to continue. But it is something that you are under the influence of, and it is something that you have the capacity to free yourself from, and that love now needs you to free yourself from if you are going to successfully get to a place of successful companionship. Because the Devil is also a symmetrical card, meaning that there's like, it tends to have male and female on either side. And so I do like to read like both cards on either side of it as like supporting things or things under the influence of this Devil energy, right? And so because of your influence, because of the influence of this thing that we're talking about, it has cost you connections, which is why we have the Two of Cups reversed here. And it has fueled this energy that we're talking about of the behaviors, the actions that you take that are leaving you rejected and lonely. Why, like, if you're asking like, well, why is that one reversed? If it's because the Fool, it's attached to the Fool, and so it's a departure. And when you make that departure, then, so it's like when it's attached to the Devil, when the Five of Swords is attached to the Devil without the Fool, then it's upwards. And it's this energy that we're talking about where under the influence of this thing, you are actively doing things that are leaving people, that are like kind of pushing people away, basically. And once the Fool is here, once you're ready to depart from what you've seen as normal, then it's reversed. And the thing is that when you do it, when you depart, when you address this thing and you put in the work to establish new ways of doing things, this, I can't help but notice how the Fool is jumping into a family unit. And so this whole idea of, you not wanting to be lonely, and the reason that you go in so heavily is because you want companionship. Well, it's possible. And more than companionship, like family, like that is possible for you, but it will require that, again, you take a departure from the ways that you have done things up until now. And Lenormand pretty much was supporting that, because Ring is all about commitments, so things we are upholding, and here at the left, so long-term commitments that we've been holding since childhood. Again, that whole thing we were talking about. Tree is she's planting something and it's blossoming, so planting a new way of doing things and watching it grow. But not just watching it grow, you have to take care of a plant. You have to watch out for weeds and any other kind of pests, and in the winter you have to do whatever you need to do, however winter is where you live. fertilizer, whatever it is. You need to take care of this thing. You need to put in that work. And from that springs child, a new you. That even supports this whole idea of like, from this effort springs child, like a family. And if it's not that, then it's a new you. You are the child. You are the new thing that is blossoming from this, a new way of doing things. So real heavy. And I do want to say that despite how heavy this message is, I do want to congratulate you, because the fact that you're here receiving this message, that's proof to your desire to want to address this problem, this thing that you may or may not even be aware is a problem. If anything that I was saying felt like a judgment or something harsh, like, please, that wasn't at all my intention. Like, believe me, I myself have things that I need to address. And like, please know that this message was a little bit for me too. Cause like, I also do have a tendency to sometimes, like, I don't put any physical energy into it, but like my mind wanders sometimes into places that, in environments that isn't appropriate in. And I do recognize how that is a big part of like what I've normalized. So there's no shame in it. Like, there's, and if there's some shame involved in some stuff that you've done in the past, and okay, I'm not saying accountability, like, please, but like, please don't let that deter you from doing the work to get to this place where you are able to give love and your affection and yourself in a healthy way, and in a way that is better received by the people that you are pursuing, and doing that in a way that eventually leads to a new way of doing things, and if it's something that you want, a family. So more than just one companion, but your family. But okay, that is what I had for you, pile one. I really hope that it helped. Godspeed. Bye. All right. Hello, Pile 2, and welcome to this reading on what love needs from you. Now, this first part of the reading answers the question of what your struggle with love is in the first place. What stands in your way when it comes to love? And this second part with the tarot and Lenormand will answer the question of what love needs from you. So, we start with the King of Swords answering the question of what your struggle with love is. The King of Swords, the Four of Wands reversed, the Three of Swords, the Nine of Cups reversed, the Knight of Swords reversed, the Sensualist, White Rose, New Start and Wisdom, Garden Heliotrope, Devotion and Dreams Fulfilled. Your struggle with love is that you do mental acrobatics to justify real red flags you might be seeing in your partners. And if it isn't red flags that you're seeing, it's the ways in which you are diminished within this relationship. We start with the King of Swords upwards and we end with the Knight of Swords reversed. So just off of that, a demotion, a diminishment of your energy. But beyond that symmetry, we also have the Three of Swords in the center. And so that's where I'm getting that heavy mental energy, because it's 3 swords cards and they're so perfectly placed. And what supports these swords cards on either side of this heartbreak, a Wands and a Cups card, both reversed. And what's remarkable is that they're not just reversed, they're both also very similar in color scheme. And so also sort of similar in their meaning. But let me dive into that a little bit more, because it's not that the Four of Wands reversed means the same thing as the Nine of Cups reversed. It's just something I'm seeing here in this reading. The Nine of Cups, I always talk about how we're here. So this card, it has this yellow background and it's even on the floor. And so even when the card is reversed, this yellow energy remains at the top of the card. And the card itself, the Nine of Cups, is one of an emotional fulfillment, something that fills you with complete emotional fulfillment. And reversed, because this joy stays present, I always interpret it as a joy that you have, but that isn't exactly what you pictured when you first started to work towards this emotional fulfillment. So a skewed emotional fulfillment. It's still fulfilling, but it isn't entirely what you wanted. And the Four of Wands upwards is a stable foundation being established upon which something stable can be built. Reversed, then it's a lack of that stable foundation. But I couldn't help but notice how the way they're set up here, like I never interpret the Four of Wands reversed as, oh, there's still joy to be had, like I do with the Nine of Cups. But I couldn't help but notice that similarity in the symmetry. And what that tells me is that mental acrobatics that you do, where even though there is heartbreak present in the relationships that you find yourself in, or the relationship that we're talking about, even though there is this present ache, you still look for the bright side within it. Whatever the reason behind that is, whether it's because, there is a lot of good things to see despite the heartbreak that exists, or you're just really good at seeing the bright side of things. Either way, what the message here is of your struggle with love is that you allow yourself to be diminished for the sake of love. You essentially diminish yourself, and you do so in the name of love, which, given that this is a struggle, love is here to tell you that you can't do that anymore. Love is no reason to self-mutilate. And wow, that is so strong to say. But like self-harm. There you go. That's what I meant to say. Jesus Christ. Mutilate was just coming from like this. This is pretty gory. I mean, it's drawn pretty simple here, but these are swords through a heart, and that's kind of that's where the word came from. But anyways, okay. So that being said, that there is this diminishing that you allow or you put yourself through. There is this message at the end, and it's supported by the oracles. Now, the oracle cards are supporting this message of pretty much what I was saying here, where the sensualist I interpret as, okay, I don't know if you're like this, but like if you get sensory overload, or if like you ever just get overwhelmed by things, that's you being in your senses, right? That's like the sensualist just reminds me of being in your senses, like you being overwhelmed by your senses, and that not giving you the full scope of vision that you would have if you weren't like being so in your senses. And so part of what it is that you focus on here is like, again, those good feelings that do exist, and you focus on that despite what it is that your body, what I was going to say, what your body is telling you, because the sensualist is also like being in the body, like when you're focusing on your senses, it's because you're focusing on what your body is experiencing. And that's kind of what's being said here, is that either you're diminishing what your body is feeling through this relationship, which is here, this heartbreak that we're talking about, or you overwhelm your senses with the good stuff in order to block out what is existing. The white rose over here on the left, new start and wisdom, the quote being, knowing yourself is the beginning of all wisdom. And so that to be here next to the King of Swords, that idea of this at your true self, like this power that does exist, because you're being represented by the King of Swords, and we're talking about this you in your mastery being diminished by this relationship or the relationships that you pursue or find yourself in. And so the struggle with love is the knowing of yourself, the knowledge of yourself, basically yourself. That is what is lost in this relationship or the relationships that you find yourself in. And this idea, like these are two separate decks, but this deck is all about roses, and the botanical inspirations, I think that's what it's called, is different types of flowers, but we got a rose anyway, and not just any rose, a white rose that looks exactly like the one from the other oracle deck. And so what I was trying to explain how I got like the messages individually, but this message that I was talking about earlier, that despite this struggle that we're talking about here of what you're allowing, there is this message here, even though this question was supposed to just answer like what your struggle with love is, there is this message, and I couldn't help but notice it, and it's supported by the oracle cards, of happiness does look like a change. If you want for moving forward from this energy is going to look like a change, a departure from what you're currently comfortable with. Why am I saying that? Because the Knight of Swords is someone who departs upwards. The Knight of Swords upwards is someone who departs anywhere that doesn't suit him. He's very impulsive. He's gonna go. Because it's a he. They are very impulsive wherever they are at, and so they don't really give it too much thought. If it feels right, they do it. And the fact that when it's reversed, it's facing away from all of this energy, and it's right behind it is this happiness. That's what gives me this idea of, like, if you were to put these two together, and then now they're both like upwards, these two together are like you taking your joy and your happiness with you, away from all of this energy. And in doing that, if we were to like reverse these, we would have to reverse all of them. And so what happens when we reverse everything is that the heartbreak is over, foundations can be established, and it's a drastic change from who you've been in the past. Right, and now these are upwards, right, if we were to do all of the reversals. And why I'm saying that the oracle support that is because garden heliotrope is a departure from the roses that we start out with, but the message being devotion and dreams fulfilled. The future belongs to those who believe in the beauty of their dreams. So if part of this relationship or the relationships that you find yourself in are people who don't inspire you, or who, like, worse than that, diminish your dreams and diminish your capacity and your talent, then part of the change that's necessary here, part of your challenge, is to take those dreams and your talent and your capacity, the belief in yourself, and run with it away from all of this, even if it does require a huge change on your part. Now, that being said, let me just reiterate that the message of your struggle with love is the diminishing of self that you allow, and the loss of self that you allow in relationships, and there being this kind of by the way message at the end of happiness does look like a departure from all of this, but it does also look like a drastic change, a drastic departure from who it is that you've been in the past. Let me now go ahead and move these out of the way so we can get into what love needs from you. All right, what does love need from you? The Emperor. The Hanged Man reversed. The Four of Cups reversed. The Devil. The Three of Wands reversed. So, if that message... Oh, I'm sorry. What does Lenormand add? I didn't even peek these. I just got excited about the message because it was really good. But Lenormand adds mice, tower, lily. Okay, incredible. Love it, love it, love it, love it, because it's pretty much supporting exactly what I was seeing. Okay, so if you were slightly worried about this message that we were talking about, here at the end of happiness looking like a complete departure from who it is that you've been, and in that message you saw how you basically are leaving demoted as a knight instead of where you started off as a king, and even if that's not what worried you, or if you noticed even in that beginning message of the diminishing that's happening, what is waiting for you once you break free of this isn't a demotion, it's an elevation from King of Swords of one suit to Emperor, which the Emperor is understood to be an emperor is above all kings, so the Emperor is above all of the kings of the tarot, and so an elevation, and each of these cards supports that message of elevation, because the Emperor again is the most elevated, leader, and the Hanged Man is reversed, but the Hanged Man upwards is a card of seeking elevation for the purpose of wisdom. So putting in active effort towards seeking enlightenment, and if not enlightenment, then just a better understanding, a heightened understanding. So again, that idea of elevation following here in the Hanged Man. It's coming up reversed, and that's a beautiful thing, and I'll explain why in a second. I'll explain the reversals in a second. Just let me talk about them upwards to give you this idea of how each of these explains elevation or gives that idea of elevation. The Four of Cups shows someone who cannot really see what is being kind of offered to them by elevated beings, wisdom that is being offered, because they're a little too focused on what is right in front of them, like sensuality, a little too focused on the material realm to see what is being offered to them from somewhere higher. The Devil isn't so much about seeking elevation, but the Devil is the obstruction to elevation, the things that keep us. What is the Devil if not this, archetypally, as we understand the Devil as a villain, as an archetype? The Devil is meant to tempt us from, elevation. It's meant to distract us from our tasks. And so even the devil kind of takes on the theme of elevation, if as an obstacle to it. And the Three of Wands, I mean, look, it's someone who is taken an elevated position to get a better vantage. Now, what does love need from you? Elevation. It needs for you to elevate yourself from where it is that you are at now. What do I mean by that? The meaning is going to vary depending on who you are and your lifestyle and what you feel is best for you. But elevation could be as simple and as mundane as, simple and mundane make it sound bad, but no. These are still good things. I just mean simple and mundane as the opposite to like spiritual. It could be as mundane as you starting you start to go to the gym because you know that, and it's not going to the gym, they're just working out because, exercise gives you endorphins and endorphins make you happy. Eating better to feel better, changing the media that you consume so that it's not all negative, changing the people that you're around. So again, elevating yourself in the sense that you're lifting yourself from this thing that is weighing you down. And on a more spiritual sense, then it is actively seeking wisdom, and that again looks different. For me, it became reading cards, and so here I am. For others, it's diving into a practice like astrology, or I don't know, there's so many things. Like, I don't want to name religions because I don't want to suggest religion. Let's just leave it at that. Elevating basically being you seeking the wisdom that's available to you. I keep on trying to come up with examples and nothing is coming up. And so what is coming up, what I am being guided to say is to seek the wisdom that you are being pulled towards. And I guess it's just going to look that different for each of you. And again, if you're not a spiritual person, if you don't feel inclined or pulled towards any type of spiritual faith or anything like that, then again, it is about something on the more mundane side of things, where it's about you creating a structure that you feel is going to work to help you actively move away, both from this energy and also from this, wherever it is that you're at now, where you feel weighed down. Now, I do want to point out that this emperor is holding a sword. And, we were talking about how important swords were in this first part. So again, there isn't any loss. In fact, there is nothing but gains on the other side of this departure from this energy. Now, these 4 cards are all, they're all together. Let me start with the devil and go from there. So the devil is anything that overwhelms us, that keeps us from elevating, keeps us from the work that we're meant to be doing, basically distracts us from what we're supposed to be doing. Here, the devil is kind of portrayed as producing this substance from which his 2 subjects are they're lapping it up. So kind of sort of like an addiction, kind of an idea here. But it's not that I'm saying I'm seeing addiction in the cards for you or anything like that. It's rather that I'm trying to say that the devil is representing something in your life, which is very likely this thing that we're talking about, this tendency that you have, or just the relationship that you're in, that keeps you from, I was going to say moving away from it, but obviously if something's keeping you, that by definition is keeping you from moving away from it. But it's something that keeps you, even if you know it's not entirely good for you. It's something that has a hold on you. There we go. And so what does love need from you? It needs action on your part. It needs for you to take control and command of your life and your story, and to seek this elevation that is portrayed in the Hanged Man. Now, why is he reversed? Because the Hanged Man, whenever he comes up, I use the Hanged Man to interpret the reversals. And remember how I said that you do mental acrobatics to justify where it is that you're at? The Hanged Man upwards is someone who does just that. It's someone who, or maybe not just that, not the mental acrobatics part, but mental acrobatics requires a lot of effort on your part, and the Hanged Man requires that much effort, but instead of the effort being used to lie to yourself, basically with those mental acrobatics, the effort is instead used to focus on elevation. The Hanged Man is someone who, so they're always hanging from something, and that idea of them hanging above, like being suspended and not touching the earth, not touching the ground. And so elevated, something that is suspended is something that's elevated, right? And here what's being said is that like that isn't necessary anymore. Like you need to break away, you need to come back down to earth, basically. You need to tie yourself down from this thing that has hurt you. I mean, look at him, he's hurt. And stop trying to look for, because when the Hanged Man is hanged, he's looking at the world upside down. And that's why I was saying that I use it to interpret the reversals, because he can see the reversals clearly, because the reversals are upwards to him. But when you come down from that tree and everything is back to normal again, you can finally address those reversals, those blockages, those things that aren't really for you. And what is the blockages that we're referring to here being, yeah, sure, the Four of Wands and the Nine of Cups up here, but more so the Four of Cups and the Three of Wands. Now, interesting that in both of these cards we have this tree, and in the Hanged Man reversed, again, that energy of coming down from the tree, and now that everything's upwards, here the Four of Cups, you're down from the tree, you're here in the material realm focused on these things that are in front of you, this relationship that we're talking about, the present, where you're at currently doing those mental acrobatics. And now that you're here and now that you're here on earth and ready to do that work, basically, now this wisdom is ready to come in. And what I'm seeing here with these two cards next to each other, the Four of Cups next to the Devil, and once the Four of Cups is upwards, is how this is the distraction. The Devil energy is what's distracting you from this wisdom that's being offered to you. And so that's why there's this idea of this departure that's necessary. You really do need to get away from all of this, because so long as it's within your proximity, it will maintain its hold over you. And so that's why we have the Three of Wands up here at the end, where once these two, like, because the Devil is so symmetrical, like it has two beings on either side, I definitely interpreted both of these reversals on either side as a result, the reversals, the blockages, being a result of the upwards Devil. And so if we are willing to come down from the tree and, you know, in essence, make ourselves available to the wisdom that's coming in for us, even though we're not fully ready to take on it yet, but if we're willing to make ourselves available for it, and if we're willing to depart, elevate, seek somewhere far away, and away from this energy in order to get a better vantage and a better perspective, then in putting those cards upwards, in those energies upwards, then the Devil is defeated. And in doing so and seeking this elevation, now we can accept this wisdom that's coming in. And so what does love need from you? It needs a separation from either who it is that you've been in the past or this person, this relationship that we're talking about. And I'm giving you both options depending on what your situation is, because you might be someone who isn't currently in a relationship until we're talking about a tendency. And so if that's the case, then again, that's why I was saying it's a departure from who it is that you've been before. If you try to stay in any way, shape, or form, like if you continue to justify your self-harm in these situations in the name of love, then you will continue to be overwhelmed by this energy and you will make yourself available to this wisdom, you know. But if you put in the active work of getting down from that tree and seeing things as they are and separating yourself from it, then that's when this wisdom will really come in and you'll be able to take advantage of it. Now, what's interesting and why I got excited about the Lenormand cards is because mice, I mean, there are mice on the ground, and she has elevated herself away from this thing that she's afraid of. The tower, up high, elevation. And Lily is cleaning something. Finding the concentrated form of something. So it can be about purity, sure, cleansing oneself of all this energy. That's one way to interpret it. But I'm definitely interpreting Lily here as the purest version of yourself, and not pure as in free of sin or clean, pure as in concentrated, untainted, who it is that you really are. Like we were saying here in White Rose, knowing yourself is the beginning of all wisdom. So getting back to who it is that you are only after you've elevated yourself and moved yourself away from mice, this thing that you're afraid of, tower, elevating yourself away from it, Lily, finding the concentrated form of yourself because you've isolated, basically. Separated away from all of this energy. So, my friend, that was heavy. That was a lot. But you can do it. You can get away from all of this. And when you do, look at what's waiting for you. It's not that it might look like a loss now while you are walking away from it. I mean, walking away from any relationship, ending it, is the loss of that relationship. But if the relationship that stands is costing you, that's too high a cost. What is promised to you if you commit to the work of moving away from these things and separating yourself from it effectively? True elevation, not just any type of elevation, not just wisdom to be gained, but there's an elevation that goes beyond that goes beyond just internal, that is spoken of here with the movement of from king down to knight and up to the emperor. And it's enough of a change, it's a drastic enough of a change that you're able to defeat the things that have held you captive for so long. Godspeed. I hope that this helped. I will catch you on the next one. Bye. All right, pile 3. Welcome to this reading on your struggle with love and what love needs from you. Now, this first half of the reading with tarot and the oracle cards is going to answer that first part of what your struggle with love is, what stands in your way when it comes to love, and these tarot cards and Lenormand cards are going to answer the question of what love needs from you. So, to get into it, the Hanged Man, the Seven of Swords reversed, the Three of Cups reversed, the King of Cups, and the Six of Pentacles. From the Oracle of the Roses, we have the Mother, Clematis, Intelligence and Mental Beauty, and Lilac. First, emotions of love. So, your struggle with love is that you are emotionally unavailable. Chances are right now you're going, well, I've had to be. And the cards are telling me that yes, you have had to be. Now, not only am I saying that because of the Mother, which indicates a great sense of responsibility, whether it is that you have a great responsibility that you can't, let me rephrase that, a responsibility that is the priority in your life. It does not have to be motherhood. It does not have to be a parent, not a parent. It doesn't have to be parenting is what I meant to say. But again, just you at the charge of something that you can't get away from. It could also be you learning how to, you being in a process of learning how to care for yourself. Whatever the case is, the King of Cups is a master of emotions who isolates. And in this case, that kind of indicating what I'm talking about with the emotional unavailability, and the King of Cups here being focused on, I see it in the way that they're dressed, the similarities between the King of Cups and the central figure in the Six of Pentacles, and that kind of being you being the provider, you being the one who has to make sure that there's enough to go around, basically. And because this is your focus, you cannot focus on these other things over here. The Three of Cups and the Seven of Swords together like this indicate to me, like, they kind of give me that idea of the dating scene or like a love life. And they're coming up reversed because you don't want to engage in them. And the Hanged Man being the necessary steps it would take to understand these energies, which came up reversed. And so with the Hanged Man, he's upside down, and so he can see these reversals, but only after they have sought a different perspective, which is outside of your comfort zone here where you are at, of prioritizing being a provider, basically. Emotionally unavailable, coming also from, we have Clematis, which is intelligence and mental beauty, which gives me this idea of the rational mind. At the other side, the first emotions of love, Lilac. And so emotions. So there being a contrast between, like, or rather not a contrast, but you having a clear separation between how you think and what you feel. And there's very likely a prioritization of the rational mind for whatever reason. And it could be because you feel like the emotions are too much for you to maneuver through successfully. But you are being represented here as the King of Cups, a master of emotions. So you definitely do have the capacity to deal with those emotions. But I am not saying, I'm not shaming you or wrong, like trying to say that anything is wrong with that. It's just, what I am trying to say, what is clear, is that there is an understanding as to why you've had to remain closed off and careful. And so basically what this message is saying, your struggle with love, is that because you've prioritized being a provider or being safe or being stable and secure, you don't have the bandwidth to get out of your comfort zone to the point where you're willing to learn new perspectives and go through the trials of, possibly getting hurt, of you maneuvering, or rather not being willing to participate in what it takes to date, which is a certain type of detachment until it's safe to be attached. And the Three of Cups being like, dating, which is more than one person. Like, you're not just focused on one person. Dating is about keeping your options open to keep yourself safe. Whatever your dating mentality is, the Three of Cups indicates, getting out there with and establishing new relationships. And the Seven of Swords just represents risk. And so that, again, the reversals next to the Hanged Man just indicates to me that it would take a departure from this comfort zone where you're at to really get into this Hanged Man position, elevate from minor to major, to really learn what it would really mean to put yourself out there and risk that. So yeah, I do want to also, I want to read the quote for the lilac because it's nice. I'll read it for the one for Clematis, which is intelligence and mental beauty, is wisdom is the abstract of the past. Beauty is the promise of the future. And lilac is first emotions of love. The quote reads, love is the magician that pulls man out of his own hat. So that idea of getting out of your comfort zone, and what gets someone out of their comfort zone is love. So yes, it's risky, and yes, there's a lot of work to do, but the reward, what you're moving towards, what you're asking for, is love. And let's be real, at some subconscious level, you do want love, or you wouldn't have clicked on a reading which is addressing your struggles with love. Not to put you in the hot seat or anything, but it's that's okay. It's a human. You are human, and you are allowed to want these things. It's okay to want these things, and it's okay that you struggle with it. There's nothing wrong with that. That's why we're here. So, okay, let me put these, kind of arrange these so that I can put these down and we can get into those. All right, what does love need from you? The Four of Wands reversed. The Star. I am gonna have to cover you up, ma'am. Sorry, you are beautiful, but YouTube is weird. The Five of Cups reversed. The Ten of Wands reversed. And the Six of Swords. Lenormand adds... Hilda, bouquet, crossroad. I totally just sounded like a monkey. Okay, Hilda, bouquet, crossroad. All right, I'm gonna put these off to the side while we interpret the tarot. What love needs from you is vulnerability. I can hear you groaning. I'm just kidding. I know that's difficult. It's probably annoying to hear, given that you've put so much work into guarding yourself, but it's in the cards, and it's literally here. Look, because we start with the Four of Wands and it's reversed, right? So the reversal indicates this deconstructing. And even the interpretation of the Four of Wands reversed is a deconstructing of something, because the Four of Wands upwards is an establishment of foundations upon which something can be built. And so reversed, it's that foundation, not being very stable. And so it's deconstructing. It's this breaking down of energy. And these two ladies are kind of in the process of undressing, their togas are practically falling off because they're dancing. And then the next card is the Star, which is a completely naked body. And before I get into these cards, I want to point out how all of these, there's not a lot of nudity in the Pamela Coleman-Smith imagery, but there is a figure in each of these, and they're all incredibly clothed, robed, And there's even dancing in the Three of Cups here. And they're all robed. Where here in the Four of Wands, that dance continues, but there's more vulnerability. And so that idea of kind of the process of undress attached to the idea of deconstruction because of the reversal, I see it as a disrobing, a showing of the self, but not to anyone, to yourself. The star is self-reflection, self-pondering. So looking at yourself honestly, brutally honestly, as honest as you can handle, and then some. Not to the point of tearing yourself down, but to look hard at what there is within you to love. Because what love needs from you is for you to understand fully and intimately not only who it is that you are, but the beauty and the wonder that you are and that you have to offer. And not because it's to offer to someone else, but because it's your treasure to hold and to protect and to carry with you. And when you can learn how to value yourself, and I'm sorry if you do, but rather it's just like there's this need for vulnerability. And when you can get to that point, to that level of vulnerability with yourself, and you understand what a sweet thing it is to give yourself intimacy, and therefore want to share that with someone worthy of that. And you can only really gauge what worth to place upon someone else, like what would make someone else worthy. You can't really define that until you share that intimacy and that treasure of yourself with yourself. And then you can see, like, okay, the person who I'm going to allow into this incredible place that is myself has to meet X, Y, and Z, because I have had to do these things to achieve this point of vulnerability and honesty with myself. And so after this vulnerability that is given to the self with the self, all of the rest of the cards they're all robed. Look at them. Robed. And there's a change in color, which it's because of the difference in suits, but to me it indicates the changes that one goes through life, and as we grow through the things that we go through. But also what remains is how you keep yourself shrouded, how you keep yourself protected. It's like I'm seeing it as, because you, after this self-reflection and self-acknowledgement, because that gains you a clear understanding of the treasure that you carry in yourself. You hide it, you shield it, but it's not that you hoard it and you keep it safe. You're traveling. Here, approaching a river. Here, walking from A to B. And then here, crossing that river. So that idea of through the movement and through changes, there remaining that commitment to yourself, to keep yourself safe and keep yourself guarded, which is an echo of what you've been doing thus far, keeping yourself safe, but keeping yourself without engaging in any kind of risk. Where here, you're engaging with the world, you're traveling out in it, facing whatever comes your way, but with an understanding that you're doing it safely. You're doing it in a way that keeps yourself safe. And so what love needs from you is for you to break free of the ways in which you've kept yourself safe, which is this understanding that as long as I stay here where I'm safe, I can never get hurt. Because now there is this pull, this internal desire for things that are beyond your place of comfort, and you are worthy of seeking those things. You deserve those things that you want, but you're being told that in order to gain them, you need to go outside of your comfort zone. And you're being assured that it's okay for you to go outside of your comfort zone, so long as you understand how to do it properly, how to do it in a way that is in acknowledgement of your worth, of your greatness, of your beauty. And because you acknowledge it, no one else can really, no liar, you'll be able to see past anyone who isn't valuing you the way that you are valuing yourself. You'll only really allow anyone into your space if they can impress you after you've impressed yourself. Like, you've impressed yourself with this self-reflection and this self-acknowledgement, and that sets the bar for anybody else who's going to come in, and that's that its own form of protection. Another thing that I'm kind of seeing with that message is this idea of pay attention to if you're conflating the idea of dating in the future with the experiences of dating you've had in the past. If you're gauging it off of what's happened in the past, where it's like, oh, well, I took a risk and it didn't pan out, this new way of doing things, and, risk is always, it's a common denominator in absolutely anything we engage in. Dating is going to be no different. Part of another message that I'm getting is, again, that conflating of experiences of the past with possibilities for the future. Part of that self-reflection and self-vulnerability is acknowledging the ways in which past experiences have made you feel and left you looking at yourself, and starting to adjust the way you look at yourself, as in you're letting go of the ideas that past experiences left you with about yourself, like self-definitions, the way that you look at yourself, and past experiences that set that precedent. Part of this vulnerability is looking at yourself honestly so you can see how off those things are. The King of Cups isolates so that he understands what is his and what isn't. And that could be part of this. I mean, cups, water, the star has water. So part of that could be about you separating, finally, what other people have placed in your head about you and in your heart about you versus what there is there for you to love and honor and carry proudly. And that idea of letting go of the ways in which you've operated in the past. I'm seeing that in the Ten of Wands reversed, because the Ten of Wands is a burden that you carry, and so reversed, it's you're releasing that burden. The Five of Cups upwards is dwelling on something, even though dwelling on crying over spilled milk when there's like plenty of milk left to be had. And so reversed, it's you saying, okay, this being next to the star. Reversed, it's like, okay, now that I've done this self-reflection, I'm ready to walk away from all of this sadness and all of this grief and pick up what's here, what about me there is to be loved. And in that, there being this relief of, in the Ten of Wands reversed that we're seeing here, and that enabling you to finally depart through the waters and travel out into the world and seek what it is that you want, find what it is that you're seeking, rather. Lenormand pretty much helped me come up, reach that, because Hilda is the self, so this is you. Bouquet is the growth that comes from, it's any kind of growth, really. It's any kind of like spring of matter, of energy. So this, and she's naked, look. So so the vulnerability that comes, the bouquet indicating that the birth of a new you that's happening in self-acknowledgement, and that is what helps you to crossroad, to make that departure, to go where you need to go and engage actively in the path that you're taking, out of here and towards what it is that you want. So, bullet points. Your struggle with love is your emotional unavailability, which we have seen clearly had to happen for whatever reason. But the time has now come for you to acknowledge that the things that you want are outside of your comfort zone, and that, yes, there's risk, and yes, there's a lot of work to be done, but that you are worth it, that you are worthy and deserving of love and a relationship and all of the things that you want. What love needs from you is vulnerability, a self-acknowledgement of self, an honest look at the self, so that when you learn how to value and look at yourself honestly, you aren't fooled by anybody else who tries to come in. In giving yourself this intimacy, you then set the bar for anybody else who comes in, and so you won't allow just anybody to come in. And in doing that, you continue to guard yourself the way that you have been, but now you're doing so in a way that you're willing to engage with risk and others, because you're willing and wanting to share the greatness that is you. So from the work that comes in self-acknowledgement and vulnerability, you're able to engage in the path that you choose and that you walk down. I hope that this helped. Godspeed, my friend. I will catch you on the next one.